Gregg, Maya, and Betty are not experts, nor do they claim to be. They're just a bunch of nerds who enjoy talking about movies, shows, and current events. So sit back, grab a coffee, relax, and enjoy a brand new episode of All Queued Up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of All Queued Up. This is your review podcast tied to streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Disney Plus, etc., etc., etc. I'm your host, Greg Dietz, and with me always is Maya Don Fisher and Betty Badger. How have you two been this week?
So far, okay. How about you, Maya?
Pretty fucking fantastic, actually. Wonderful week for me. Especially, hey, football season's back. I'm a huge football fan.
That fucking Raider game.
Yeah, my team, my favorite team is the Raiders. I've been a Raiders fan since I was a wee lass. And they had a AFib-inducing game Monday night. Oh my God, I thought I was going to die. But they ended up winning in overtime, which was great. I went 3-0 on my fantasy football teams this week and absolutely destroyed in two of them. And had to come from behind winning one. And then we had a fun session of D&D yesterday. And then tomorrow is my second appointment for laser hair removal. So, yeah, I'm just getting a new TV tomorrow. I've got it already ready to go. Just got to pick it up at Best Buy after I get out of my appointment tomorrow. So, yeah, things are going great. But, you know, as much good news as I have, how about you, Greg? You got any good news that you want to share with the world today?
That's my official driver's license. As some of the listeners have probably heard, I have spent the past 20 years of my life attempting to get my license. I've taken the permit test 8-9 times in my life, and just some hurdle gets right in my way of being able to get my license. And well, today I succeeded. As of recording, I went and took my permit test this morning and pulled in the parking lot. She goes, "Well, you passed today, Gregory, and you only got 5 marks, so that's good. You if it was 15, you would have failed." And I'm like, "Fuck, yes." So now we got.
I'm absolutely thrilled for you, happy for you. When you sent that message, I immediately said to Misty, "I was like, Greg passed," and she's like, "Yay! Tell him I'm proud of him."
It's a nice little cap off from the stress that I've had the past 3 days. As some of you may have heard, there has been some family tragedies in the past few months. Back in April was a horrible one, and then about a month ago was another one that really fucking sucked. And it's all been affecting my mom because it's her family. And the biggest problem with this one was that because my aunt's room was kind of closed off from the police trying to investigate the situation, there wasn't any like strong, hey, if you open this, it's against the law situation. So her roommate named David, he decided to go in anyway and start taking stuff out. This stressed my mom out to no end. And I said, fuck it, let's get in the car and go there and get the stuff that you want. Family heirlooms and shit like that, stuff that's important to her. And we were going to do that Sunday evening, but the guy David I was talking about is a flake, never around. So we had to schedule for Monday morning. And it was a 2.5-hour drive there, loading up the car with as much stuff as we possibly could, and then a 2.5-hour drive back, to which I did all of that. Longest distance drive I've done so far, fucking exhausting. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ. And then I had already scheduled before this conversation on Sunday. I had scheduled my driver's test for Tuesday morning. And so exhausted on Monday night, Tuesday morning, I head there. She goes, all right, we're going to test the brakes, press the brake. And so I do. And she's like, okay, so we're going to have to not do the test today because your driver's side brake light is out. She's like, but if you reschedule right now, you can try to come back in tomorrow morning. And so it's been the past few days have been a hassle and exhausting. And I'm so fucking happy that to cap it off, I finally got my goddamn driver's license.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yes.
Yes.
It makes everything that I've been going through worth it at this point. But I did have a funny joke. Someone in the half empty group said, "What are you gonna do to celebrate?" And I went, "Run errands." So,
hey, here's the thing now. You're not going to be under a time crunch anymore to get things done, other than like appointments that are locked in. Now you can do things at your leisure. It's like,
yeah,
your parents say, "Hey, I need you to run to the grocery store. We got to go before it gets dark." You don't have to now.
Yep. Because my dad has night blindness, so we'd have to do all of our stuff before it got dark for him. Don't have to fucking worry about any of that anymore. The other thing is I have not been going to the gym for the past few weeks because it's been so busy, and trying to schedule me going in, and my dad like having to wake up at 7 with me to go to the gym, and all this. It's a pain in the ass. Guess what? He doesn't have to do now.
Yeah.
Exactly. He can have a lie-in while you go and get a workout in.
It's awesome. Well, before we start, I have a little joke for you two. I was driving past a prison the other day, and I saw a little person trying to escape out of the prison at like one of the top areas, and I realized that that's a little condescending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing, huh? Just nothing. All right. I fucking love that joke.
I mean, it's a good one. It's a good one. I shall employ
it. All right. So last week we said that we were going to watch episode 6 of What If. Wow. It's episode 6 of What If and the movie Kate on Netflix. Well, I had forgotten that Why the Last Man started Monday. So we had to crunch in 3 episodes so we could have it to review here, which means that, for the next few weeks, there'll be What If and Why the Last Man until like maybe it's another thing pops up that we want to add it. But anyway, regardless, we're going to review episode 6 of What If, the movie Kate on Netflix, and the first 3 episodes of Why the Last Man.
On Hulu.
Yeah. The great thing about this show, you don't have to have a Hulu account per se, or like a paid one, because you just have to deal with commercials. So if you want to watch the show, it's borderline basically free.
Which is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I'll deal with commercials to not have another fucking subscription service.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go ahead and start with the movie Kate, and then we'll go into What If and finish with Why the Last Man. That sound good?
That sounds good to me. What about you, Betty?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so Kate on Netflix, starring
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
I was going to say the wrong name. That's why I just paused. And Woody Harrelson. The theme of the movie is that Kate is an assassin, and she is poisoned and has a whole day to basically exact revenge. That's the basics of it, but it all takes place in Tokyo. So you have a lot of Japanese and anime references through the whole fucking movie. I basically described this movie as the action from John Wick and the craziness from the Jason Statham movie, where he's like, he has to like take adrenaline and shock his heart. Crank. Thank you. Like, because like I said, she has less than a day to exact revenge. So it felt like it had that speediness of Crank while being like I thought that the fight sequences were very John Wick. But what do you guys think? Would you two think?
Go first, Maya.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. I've seen similar plots before, but this one was done in a fun way. Also, I do have Mary Elizabeth Winstead kind of gets my lady parts tingling.
I don't blame you. Like, I think the first thing I ever saw her in was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and I was like, yep.
No, but it was kind of predictable in the fact that, okay, she's gone on a job, the job went wrong, and then 10 months later, she's supposed to finish out this long job that had started months prior, and that they revealed that they had been working on this line, taking out these Yakuza bosses for like 7 years. And then before she goes to perform the job, she's poisoned. When she tries to finish the job, she botches it, ends up in a chase, crashes the car, wakes up in the hospital, and finds out she's been poisoned with polonium-204, which is
Very specific.
very, very specific, and also going to be very lethal. It is pretty much fatal.
Highly radioactive.
Yeah, highly radioactive. Kills you by radioactive poisoning within, in this instance, less than 24 hours.
I also think it was the dosage that they gave her too that caused that length in time. I could be wrong, but that's what
I don't know how much it takes, but
it also doesn't matter. Like, I think that was just the catalyst to move a specific plot forward.
Yeah.
You could have literally just said she was poisoned by radiation, and it would have been just as fine. But they went very specific on it, and I was like, okay. Like you said, the twist, like I saw in the first 15 minutes. I think my mom did too, and that's saying a lot because she usually doesn't catch those. It didn't move the needle. I mean, if it moved the needle in any direction, it was that women can just be as badass action movie stars as men.
I think that's been established.
We've known that since Sigourney Weaver.
Right. Well, and I think that's when I say well on that, because I think a big issue that society has is they don't think back on those badass women in movies. They just, whenever you think action film, you're like, oh, Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris and shit like that. You're just like, no, there were others.
No, there are plenty of action movies out there with women in them, and I don't think in this day and age that's really an issue, because Kill Bill,
right?
Very popular set of movies, very much centered around females. And Quentin Tarantino likes to center. He likes badass female characters. That's what he does. But with this one, when you talk about it not moving the needle, I think you are right. I thought it was a good movie for what it is, but it is very much a trope. You say you caught on the first 15 minutes. I knew before even starting this movie who killed her. I mean, I was like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm walking into right now. So
if it counts for anything, I didn't even know Woody Harrelson was in the movie until it started. I was like, huh? All right. So, but yeah, I was really, really, really impressed with the action sequences. I love action sequences that flow like that. That kind of feel like it's just being filmed in the moment.
It's a good flow, and the soundtrack I loved.
Oh yeah,
the soundtrack was great.
I couldn't tell if the band in the club that she goes and gets the girl in, I don't remember characters' names. Annie, thank you. I couldn't tell if that was Baby Metal or not, but I really hope that it was Baby Metal.
It didn't sound like Baby Metal to me, but
yeah, that's what I was thinking, because it wasn't heavy metal. It was just
to the Googles.
Fair enough. I fucking love Baby Metal. They are fantastic.
Yeah, you should talk to Deke about that, because he loves it too. That's where I've seen my Baby Metal is at his house. I don't watch it here.
It was funny. I mentioned that. I was like, I wonder if that's Baby Metal. Mom was like, what's that? And I explained it. I was like, it's kind of poppy sounding singing over heavy metal, and she goes, well, that doesn't sound like heavy metal. Is baby metal a genre? I went, no, it's a band, but there are others that do that style.
Well, it's basically cute little girls dressed in Lolita black costumes and, rocking
That-
out to heavy metal while sounding like little 5-year-old girls.
So the band that was on stage playing in particular in that club was a band called Band Maid, which
Huh.
makes sense because they were dressed as maids.
Yeah.
And the song's called Choose Me.
Have you guys ever heard of Lady Beard?
It sounds familiar, but I can't.
So he is a heavy metal singer. He does the kind of.
Oh, yes, I've seen him. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that is one that I've watched at this house, and I've watched it a few times because it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But anyway, my dad noticed right away the a lot of the anime stuff too, like that chase sequence with her like kind of losing her shit in the car.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That I was like, I've seen this in multiple animes. And I think that's what I can't figure out is if they were taking inspiration from anime or American action movies or a combination, because I know that John Wick kind of borrows a lot from anime too. So,
well, that's the thing. Anime was the action flicks before the action flicks, I guess. I mean, I think that they have strongly influenced action flicks overall. I think that, a lot of things from Asian cultures have influenced how we do our action filming here. And it blends well. It blends well. I mean, again, the scenes were great. It's a good movie.
yeah.
I'm not chomping at the bit to watch it again, but it's a good movie. If you want to sit down and watch a fun action flick, watch this movie.
Exactly. I think that's something that I've told a few people now is like, you're going to predict everything. You're going to know what's coming. It's not moving the needle. It doesn't do anything new, but it is a great popcorn flick.
Yeah.
Just chill, maybe get high, have a drink, enjoy this fucking movie. That's as simple as it gets. So, any other thoughts before we move on to grades? Since we have a lot to review today.
No.
All right. Well, Maya, why don't you get started on the grading of it?
I mean, I give it a C plus. It's not setting the world on fire, but it wasn't bad. It was, it's definitely worth a watch once. It's just slightly better than average, I would say. But it's a slick and polished looking movie in places. But it's predictable, and it's still good enough to be fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Betty?
I would give it a B. It's not. It's a good movie for what it is. It's a good movie, but like you said, don't go into this expecting to, get a whole bunch of insight out of it or anything, because it is very much a trope movie, but it's a comfort movie.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something in this genre, absolutely watch it. It's got great actors. The story's not bad, but you do know what's coming. So don't be disappointed in that. If you figure it out in the first 15 minutes, it's going to happen. What about you, Greg?
I want to basically bounce off of your review. I give it a B as well, and I love the term comfort food or comfort movie. This movie is, hey, I feel like a burger, but I don't really want to spend that much. So let me get something familiar, and you go to your favorite fast food joint and you get a burger. That's what this movie is. And you're not dissatisfied. You're not, like, holy shit, like I have to have that burger again. That's this movie. So I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. All right, perfect. Well, yeah. If you guys are looking for a movie to watch, that just turn off your brain and have fun, there you go. All right, so we're gonna review episode 6 of Marvel's What If, which is what if Killmonger saved Tony Stark. The turn or the question in that is like when in the very beginning of Iron Man, the very first MCU movie, when Tony is blasted by his own bomb, to which gets the shrapnel in his chest and the Ten Rings kidnap him. What if Killmonger knew about it and saved him? I will say right off the bat, the thing I really enjoyed about this what if was that it immediately goes into this doesn't quite make sense. Explain it right now. And then he was like, oh, I got, intel that Obadiah Shane was trying to kill him. And I went to that location. Because even, the news anchor was just like, you're 400 clicks away. How does that work? So I really fucking appreciate that. But
I think there was some what ifs that happened before we got to that point that we all completely missed.
Sure.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that I kind of felt was like, okay. But I know there's a lot of shit that had to go down for this what if to take place. So there's a what if chain reaction going on here. And we're about 5-6 clicks in the reaction.
One of the biggest difference I will say, Betty, about this show or this show's way of telling what if that's different than the comic is the comic does one of two things. It goes, hey, here's like a page, 2 pages and a half of explanation up to the what if. So that way you kind of understand where the direction everything was going. Or it literally just changes one small thing right off the bat. This show isn't inherently doing that. This show is creating a scenario that happened off screen and then telling us the primary story. And in some cases, not even technically finishing it like in this episode. Because I would love to know what the fuck Shuri and Pepper Potts are going to do next.
Right.
But as for how this story played out, I really fucking enjoyed it. I don't know about you two, but I thought it was fun. I was like, oh, this is a great fucking idea.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad episode. I don't know. I was confused about the whole, once he takes the herby stuff, the purple stuff, and he goes into the other realm, why the fuck would they let him become the next Black Panther? Why didn't they just tear his soul out of him right there and then and say, nope, not for you? And then everybody would have known. You know what? They didn't approve of this guy. There must have been something up.
Well, from what I gather, at least from this interpretation, is that the view of Bast is it's Bast is a god in the same way that the Christian God is. It's humans interpreting what's happening as the will of their god. And so Killmonger being there and doing all that is like, because in the comic, Bast is a real thing. Bast, shows up from time to time to actually give guidance or actually give help.
Which makes sense. That's
right.
The thing. It's like, wait a minute. Why is she like the Christian God when we have Thor and we have Loki? Why is she not an avatar of something herself?
So there was a great bit on TikTok that I saw in regards to that, Betty. And it was referring to the comics exclusively, not so much the MCU, but you could still get the same thing from the MCU. But it was Tony talking to Captain America because Steve is a Christian in the comics, and in he haven't really established in the MCU, but in the comics he's a Christian. And it's Tony talking to Steve, and he's like, "So you still believe in Jesus, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's I'm still a Christian." He's like, "Doesn't that seem a little odd to you?" And then Steve would be talking. He's like, "Hey, Thor, what's up?"
Yeah.
Like, "What's up, Hercules?" Just consistently mentioning the other pantheon's gods and things like that in this conversation between Tony and Steve. Tony's just like, "All right, man."
I mean, are we saying that the purple drink is literally nothing but purple drink and it makes you hallucinate, and that was just his subconscious talking to him as T'Challa instead of actually being T'Challa on a ghost plane with Bast and
So-
ready to rip his throat out.
My assumption on the purple drink is that it's from the flower that was affected by the vibranium. So it's almost like you're having vibranium like put into your system to make you stronger. And the ancestral plane vision that you get is the actual ancestral plane, but that is just to guide you and not necessarily whether to say you're worthy of it or not. Because even in the context of that scene where it's him and T'Challa, there clearly was they weren't going to take it away from him.
Well, yeah, that's why I was like, because I was thinking as soon as he woke up in that purple world, I was like, he's gonna die. I was like, whoa, he didn't die.
No, and that's the other thing. I think even if I hope that they kind of talk to what's his name? The guy who directed Black Panther, who also wrote it. I'm gonna draw a blank on his name.
Oh, because you draw blanks on everybody's names.
It's true, unless it's a fictional character that I've read for fucking years. Anyway, the guy who directed Black Panther, I want to know if they consulted him for this what if. And maybe they got the ancestral plane thing wrong. I
don't know how it works. I'm just making conjectures as somebody who doesn't completely understand the Marvel universe yet. So
that's fair. Well, and the MCU is different than the comics. Like I said, Bast doesn't seem like an actual entity in the MCU, where in the comics Bast is. So I generally have to shrug my shoulders. But
Ryan Coogler, by the way.
Ryan Coogler, Jesus. Anyway, Michael B. Jordan is a fucking fantastic voice actor. There's that, which is refreshing considering.
Oh yeah, and he's hot as a cartoon as well as a real person.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Also, I don't know who's like the guy that's voicing Tony doing a great fucking Robert Downey Jr. impression.
Yeah, he really did.
I knew as soon as Pepper spoke, though, I was like, that's not Pepper Potts. Yeah, I was like, that's not Gwyneth. So who they get to play her, I had to go look it up. And yeah, again, not a bad episode, but there's a lot of what ifs that I'm like, well, how did we get here? Because some shit had to go down for us to completely get to this point. So I'm like, how did we get here? What little butterfly created this big butterfly? Yeah,
you and my dad are very similar in that, where he was kind of saying the same things of like, I want to know what happened like with Killmonger before saving Tony. Like they kind of told us, but we didn't get to see it. And then he was like, and I don't know why it has to end where it's not the actual end of the story. So I totally get where you're coming from.
I mean, it does show us that, while some characters in the Marvel universe can absolutely switch, some of them are just kind of seemingly inherently evil.
I think
he didn't change.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was something I thought was interesting, where the Watcher calls Killmonger a villain, but I never saw Killmonger as a villain. Mm-mm. I saw him as somebody trying to exact revenge for the wrongs that he had been gifted, if you will. And
isn't that how a lot of villains start out, though?
Not necessarily. So, a lot of Marvel villains, a lot of them are just rich assholes trying to get richer. Whereas Killmonger, it was like his dad was ousted from Wakanda, and then
and why was his dad ousted from Wakanda?
Because for trying to sell vibranium in America.
So rightfully, he was ousted from Wakanda. But again, while it might not be a common trope in Marvel Universe, it is a common trope that villains usually, they don't always start off as bad people. Hitler was not born a bad baby. By the time we got to him being rejected from art school, he became a villain,
Right. Don't get me wrong. Like it's like we discussed, like the term villain fits a certain motif where it doesn't others, but I know that that's a broad and generalized term. So you can consider Killmonger a villain. And I would go as far as saying a sympathetic villain. Whereas like Yellow Jacket or Obadiah Stane, they're just villains. There's nothing sympathetic about those guys. That being like, all of that being said, it felt like there was more maliciousness or malicious intent with Eric in this What If than in the Black Panther movie. That could just be me though. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, he got more playtime. This was about him. This was about his character. It wasn't about T'Challa. It wasn't about Wakanda. It was about him. So we got to see his motives and his intent and how it played out very fully in this episode, where we didn't get that in the movie. He was in the movie. Yes, he's a great character. I love him. But his role in the movie was not as extensive as his role in this episode.
I wholeheartedly agree. But it was fun. Criticisms aside, I still enjoyed it quite extensively.
I enjoyed it better than last week's. Absolutely.
I fucking an actor that I don't feel like gets enough praise because he's usually in a green screen situation, but Andy Serkis is fucking fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
That man acts just like anything he touches is gold, I swear. Ulysses Claw is the character, by the way, Betty, that I'm referring to. I don't know if you knew that in that situation.
No.
But yeah, Andy Serkis, he played one of the main ape in the remake of Planet of the Apes. That trilogy. Caesar. He was also Gollum in all of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies.
Yeah, I know who that is. I've seen him.
Him and he's a tall, lanky dude. He's on Star Trek Discovery as one of the aliens. He was also played Abe Sapien and the
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones.
That guy is also fucking phenomenal.
Yes.
And nobody knows his actual face.
Oh, I know his face. It's very alien looking. I mean, he's very suited to what he plays. He's got a even his face screams otherworldly. There are just certain actors out there who are meant to play otherworldly characters because they have that kind of face.
Yeah, that's Andy Serkis. Love the guy to death. He has a weird looking face, and it fucking works. So, but yeah. Any other thoughts either of you have before we give it a grade?
No, not really.
All right, Betty, why don't you go first on it?
I'll definitely give this one a B+. It was good. Again, I would still. This is me just being me. I want to know about the little butterfly that created the big butterfly. But overall, it was a good episode. And, voice acting was great. And, again, I can't say anything really bad about it. So, yeah, B+. What about you, Maya?
I'd give it a B. It was a fun episode. It was definitely better than last week's episode. I like the premise, and this is, I think, the second episode now, maybe the third one that's ended with the story not being fully realized, and it makes me wonder what they're going to do for a second season. If it's approved for a second season, are they going to have remember this story from last time? Let's see what continues. What if this had happened? Let's see how it continues to play out, or if this is it. Either way, I'm satisfied with what they have told, but I would still, there is a part of me that does want to see where it ultimately would have gone. There's a part of me that wants to see that, but it doesn't hurt the story that they did tell, regardless, in my opinion. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm curious as to what the last 3 episodes are.
I know 2 of them are. One's called Party Thor, and the other one's called Ultron Infinity or Infinitum or something like that. And what I understand about that is Ultron gets the Vision body.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So, but I don't know what that other one is. I don't remember. And I'm done looking at what order they're in because that was fucking way off last time. But I'm gonna go ahead and just agree with you guys. I'm gonna say B plus. Really solid episode, really fun. I would have liked to seen more. Like I feel like an hour long episode would have been really good for this. But yeah, I didn't think it was bad at all. Oh, the other episode is Tony Stark on Sakaar. So don't know what that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm really hoping we get Party Thor next week. I think we need a lighthearted what if.
Yeah.
It's been really, really heavy since episode 2.
Now, are they doing another Black Panther movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be called
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever, and it's going to centerize on 5 characters through the whole movie instead of just being about T'Challa, because obviously they're not going to try to replace Chadwick Boseman. They're just going to be like, hey, so he's off screen doing other things. They're going to reference T'Challa and that T'Challa is doing something as Black Panther or whatever.
Can there be female Black Panthers?
Absolutely.
Sure, he's been Black Panther in the comics.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I mean, I
totally
liked
possible.
Black Panther a lot, so I was hoping, because I've noticed there's been a lot of episodes with T'Challa in them and Wakanda, and so I was thinking, well, with all these references, they've got to be doing another one. So
Yeah, it's like
they are.
Ryan Coogler was actually writing the second movie when Chadwick passed away, and he had to completely do a 180 on it because he didn't know where to take it, and he was adamant that people are not going to accept another actor playing T'Challa. He was not okay with that. So the plan that him and Kevin Feige and a couple other guys had come together was, what if Wakanda, or what if Black Panther 2 or Wakanda Forever is a anthology style story that ties everything together and is a jumping off point for a couple new characters like Riri Williams, who will become Ironheart. So that's going to be fun. If you don't know who Ironheart is, in the comics, she was a 15-year-old mega genius who decided to make her own Iron Man suit, and she calls herself Ironheart. And she'll be Wakanda forever. I don't know if she'll be 15, but all right. So now that we got those 2 things down, we got one more thing to review. As Maya and I have stated, this is a comic that we both have read, but we love. And this show has been in development hell for way too long. I remember back in like 2010, they were talking about bringing it to a movie or TV, and it just never got off the ground.
Oh, yeah.
But finally, we have the first 3 episodes on Hulu. Why the Last Man? Why the Last Man? The premise, if you don't know, it's very simple. A plague hits the earth that kills every single living person with a Y chromosome.
Well, not just humans. Every species that has a Y chromosome. Every living species, male, just drops.
Except for poor Yorick and his capuchin monkey Ampersand, which I've always loved that name for that monkey.
Me too.
And the show starts off with the thick of it, and Yorick is just in New York, trying to survive, and then it jumps back to the very, like, even before the plague, and you get to meet a lot of our characters and what they were going through before the plague hit. I personally felt like these 3 episodes could have been 2. I felt like there was a lot more dialogue than was absolutely necessary. It felt like a little Standish. If you remember, I complained about the Stand just taking too much time with certain characters when they could have just made kept the plot going forward. And there are a few characters where they're like, their story that was happening in like the first and second episode does not matter at all. And I get why it's there. It's building that character because we're going to see that character a lot. But I felt like there was enough, and it just kept going and going and going. And I'm like, and I know that's a me thing. I know that's something that I have an issue with when it comes to stories, but it was just a little plotting. And I'm like, But um, I'm curious what you think of the show, Betty.
I like it. I mean, some of the things that you were talking about, I actually think because they do have female writers on the staff, that's why these things were brought up. Because there's one thing that a lot of women like, it's gossiping and knowing about certain little details that have no bearing or effect on anything else that's going to happen in the future. But you need to know what the color of Becky's dress was that she wore to prom back in 1989.
Fair
Did
enough.
she have
fair
the
enough.
radar dish bangs, or was she going for the slick look? You know?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I absolutely do not care about.
yeah. And that's just, I mean, so it didn't bother me that much. And I did find it funny because, again, I've talked about this before. We watch it with subtitles on. And it's like, oh, her husband has a name. They gave him a name in this, that's pretty cool because he's about to die. So he's not in this for 5 minutes. You probably see his dead body more than you do him. So.
Yeah.
So I was impressed with that. I was like, wow, he gets his own name for 5 minutes of screen time. That's cool. But yeah, I have to say that my first impressions with these 3 episodes, watched them all that night, and I enjoyed it. I paid attention, and just like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, I think that I have to say I was watching the Raider game with the first 2 episodes. I had it on my phone while the game was on the TV, and I had my headphones in, so I couldn't hear my parents yelling that much. But I'm really glad that I did, because there were conversations that were happening that I'm sitting there going, like, I know this character and I know what they're going to go through. Why do we have to have this conversation between these characters? Like, it's not going to matter by episode 3. I kept thinking that, and then I was sitting there thinking, like, well, I know why it's there. It's so that way people become attached to these characters. So that when they go through this horribly traumatic event, you're not sitting there detached from it because you got to see the character before.
Yeah, you get a glimpse. I mean, it's just the smallest glimpse of some of these women's lives before it was all taken away.
Because it 1,000% doesn't do that in the comic, by the way. Like, it centralizes on York for like the first few issues, and then him getting to DC to see his mom, thanks to 355. So
Who is badass, by the way.
Oh,
they,
yeah.
could not, they could not have done a better job casting her and making that character like pop off the fucking comic book.
Yeah, I told Jeff, I was like, if all the men died, that's my girl right there. I'm hooking up with her.
No, the second that she starts doing something, I'm like, it felt like the first time Michonne showed up in Walking Dead. Like, identical to the comic. Which is super happy for, or super happy.
Well, see, and here's the thing. I have no idea about the comic, never seen it, never read it, had no idea it existed until a couple of months ago. So when I was watching the first part where, she's making that bomb, and then the dude's like, get in the room. They don't want to know that someone like you is. I was like, girl, you gonna take that like that? And then she climbs out the window and is jogging away and just boom. I was like, oh my God, I love her. I love her.
The greatest part about that shot was the explosion was so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
When a movie or TV show does an explosion and it looks and feels like that, oh, it's like sorry, I'm trying to think of like something that's really satisfying to watch. It's like popping bubble wrap, It has that nice feeling to it. You're just like, oh, just perfect fucking bloom of the explosion. And then
it's like a money shot.
Yeah, you can go that route, sure.
Or let's just be simplistic. It's like blowing something up. It's amazing.
Yeah. Because there are some times where they blow things up and they're like, let's make it look realistic. I'm like, realistic is boring. Like, do a movie explosion. It's fucking much better. And they did that, and I was like, oh. And then, of course, her in the foreground, not even flinching.
I know, right? It was gorgeous. I mean, because I was so upset at first. I was like, girl, you gonna take that shit? You know, I was like, oh. And then just watch her running away with that little smirk grin on her face. I was like, oh, I love you. I love you. Who are you? I need to know who you are.
She's the badass who will be with York for the remainder of the show.
Well, thank God, because he needs a nanny.
That's another thing I think that drove me nuts about people not knowing the plot to this story was because we've read the comic, and Maya and I can contest to this. York is a goddamn moron a lot. Like he's not illogical or unknowledgeable. Like he knows quite a bit. I mean, he was, recognizing names that worked in the government before the event. But like, the scene where his mom is saying, like, we have to do this to save mankind, but we have to keep you hidden because of this. And she's thinking strategically and logically. He's just like, did I tell you I got engaged? Shut the fuck up, York.
I know.
But that's York. That's like, again, another thing about him popping off the fucking comic. Like, I don't know if you felt the same way, Maya, but for me, I was like, wow, that's really fucking good in that. And to keep in mind, the show isn't exactly like the comic. There's been a lot of differences already.
Well, yeah, you got to change things for the visual screen, I assume.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not going to even attempt to look at the comic until after this is said and done, because like I said, I don't like to mix things when I'm trying to enjoy just one form of it.
I'm gonna do the same thing when Wheel of Time comes out. I'm watching the show before I even touch a book, if I touch a book. So,
I don't know if you should touch a book, because if you don't like long, drawn out narratives about things like what Moraine was wearing, I definitely say watch the show. Don't read the books. You're not going to like it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of other things that happened. Like,
well, I'd like to hear what Maya thought about it, and in your position, and as somebody in the trans community, because when I first saw the guys that were left, I was like, wait a minute, I thought there was only one dude left. And it was like, those are dudes that don't have Y chromosomes. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, because I was like, those are dudes. I don't care. To me, that's a dude.
And played by actual transgender men.
Yep.
Spot on. How did it? What did you see? What did you think when you saw it portrayed?
Well, from the representation aspect.
From the representation aspect first, and then as the personal aspect.
I think it's a wonderful thing. It's like the showrunner is female. There are a majority of, if not all of the directors are female. I'm pretty sure they are all female, I think. And possibly, I think there may be a transgender female director too.
Yeah.
Or at least writers there are, for sure.
There are, from what I understood, 2 transgender women writers.
And I think 1 director.
Yeah, let me double check that. It might be 2.
I think. But I think that's fantastic, because, the comic didn't quite deal with transgender so much in the original comic.
It did not.
It was really only mentioned that trans men survived because they didn't have Y chromosomes, and that was about the extent that it was touched upon. So, seeing Sam, Hero's friend, he's upset because his friends left and they took all the testosterone, and he's only got a 2-week supply of testosterone left. And where's he going to get more?
What does that mean for someone like him? I mean, what happens if he stops taking his testosterone?
Basically, without the blockers, estrogen blockers that he would need to take, his body will stop producing testosterone and start producing estrogen again, and he will lose his masculine traits, and his femininity will come back.
Oh, bless his heart. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that was a really sad moment. Also, when he says like something about like this is the last of the testosterone, or like they took the rest of it, or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Just
took
holding
the
on
rest
to
because
the
they
bottle.
had a shitload of it.
Mm-hmm. I saw all those vials, and to only have 2 weeks left. I mean, I didn't understand the full ramifications, but I knew that it was not going to be good for him. So that's why I asked you, because you have more experience with this. But
Well, say for instance, if I went one day without taking my hormones and my testosterone blocker, I feel completely off. I like it just doesn't feel right. Uh, Fortunately, I've only missed one day once in the past 10 months, thankfully. And that day sucked. um, but to know that, oh no, I've only got 2 weeks of this left, what is going to happen to me? It's a terrifying thought.
yeah, absolutely.
But
You
and
know,
that's the thing about this show. The whole thing should be terrifying. Like
Oh,
everything
yeah.
about this show should scare you in a
oh, it
way. Like
absolutely does. You know, I'm sure there are people out there that are like, oh, I would love a world where it's just totally ruled by women and, only women. Well, you're getting a glimpse into a reality, and I think they're glossing over a lot of things uh, that you wouldn't think of that they would have to deal with. But I like the fact that they bring up, it's 3 weeks in, they bring up the fact we've only got a week and a half of coal reserves left. After that, our power plants are going offline.
yep.
You know, how many female coal miners do you know of?
Exactly.
Well, and that's again, it's like when I was talking to one of my sisters about this, and she was like, it wouldn't be that bad. I'm like, girl, who you going to get to fix your car? You can't fix your car. How many women do you know that can fix your car? You're going to have to go out and find a woman who can fix your car. And let me tell you, she's going to be in high demand.
Yeah.
And just with the way it happened so instantaneously,
Mm-hmm.
there are all these other ramifications that are more like a zombie apocalypse type situation. It's like, and I never
Well,
considered the fact that if we were in a zombie apocalypse type situation, New York would be underwater. I never
Oh,
even thought about
absolutely.
that.
yeah.
Absolutely, because the subways, they absolutely have to be pumped free of water on a regular basis. That's why when it comes a heavy rainstorm, the subways flood.
hmm Well, it's
Just
like,
like recently
Washington,
when,
D.C. is built on a marsh,
yeah,
And
not stable.
what's funny is if this show wasn't just all everything with the Y chromosome, and it was just like half the population disappeared, it'd be the same problem or close to it. Um,
You would have more diversification in um, knowledge and know-how, because again, there are still a lot of job sectors, not just in America but worldwide, that are still male dominated to a very large degree. So
mhm.
if they all die off, and we've got one woman who knows how to run a nuclear power plant, we're still fucked.
yeah,
you know
absolutely, 100%. It's just like I think a lot of people are going to misinterpret the reality of the show and think like, oh, they're just trying to say women can't take care of the world after men are gone, and that's not at all the
no,
case.
because
It's just
if it was flipped on its head, we'd still have the same fucking problem in different areas.
Right.
Because there are things that women do that men don't typically have jobs in.
Exactly.
You know, and it's just you're going to run into problems. I'm like, you know, imagine when you leave your husband at home alone with your 2 toddlers for a weekend and come back, and what a freaking disaster you walk back into. Imagine if we all just dropped off the face of the earth. They would be fucked. All the kids would be fucked. So yeah, there's certain issues on each side, and I think the women are pulling together and doing very well. But I also like how they didn't, you know, there aren't a bunch of women out there, you know, holding hands and singing Kumbaya, you know,
Well,
because all the men are gone. I'm sure there are
I
some,
was gonna say
but
we might see them, because I know in the comic, which I know they're not going to do in the show, but in the comic, there were a bunch of women that were sitting around with candles and like kind of in a way praying to the Washington Monument. Obviously not every woman, clearly, because that's the glory of the show, is that, you know, there's so much difference when it comes to what each group of women is doing. And so there were a bunch of women that were just like, it's a phallic symbol, we're gonna praise it and hope we can get our men back or some shit. Well, there's a whole nother group called the Amazons, which I really hope we fucking see soon.
Oh, no, we will. I mean, I know there are people that have been cast as Amazons.
Oh shit. Okay. Did not know that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell you what they're about, Betty. I just want you to see it.
I have a pretty good idea.
I'm personally a big fan of the Amazons, but not for the reasons you think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not the hero of the show. I can tell you that in any way, shape, or form.
Not surprised.
But yeah, that last shot in episode 3 has me so fucking excited for episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that 355, Jesus Christ, is willing to go to that extent to keep York safe. Oh, there's so much coming, Betty. There's so much coming that I'm so excited for you to see.
Yeah, when that helicopter went down, I mean, again, this is my fierce female side, because as soon as those 2 helicopter pilots were in that room, I was like, oh, them bitches are gonna have to die.
Oh, absolutely.
And I knew exactly what she was doing when she handed out them medals. I was like, oh, girls, it was good knowing you.
Oh,
but you know, loose lips sink ships, man, and 355 nut fucking knows that. So yeah, I mean, I love all the strong females in this. Even Amber Tamblyn, she's a great actress.
Oh,
she plays a cunt so well.
Oh yes, she does. I hate that bitch.
Somebody online was just like, so what is this show like? Nancy Pelosi versus they said who was the fucking character or the person's name in real life that's like super fucking MAGA-ish that looks like her. I'm drawing a blank, but they said her name and they were just like,
Meghan McCain.
Yes. It was like, is it Nancy Pelosi versus Meghan McCain? I'm like, I'm sure that was part of the inspiration, but relax.
Oh, I thought she was supposed to be like a chubby Ivanka Trump.
I mean, we could go that route too. It's that strong MAGA type, because she even calls her calls that woman a rhino. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, well, and look at what she was talking about in the very beginning about, our boys, our children in general. Okay, lady. First of all, it's our children in general. We do subject our kids to some horrible stereotypes, but and these women are very pervasive where we come from. They want to be accepted by the conservative men in their lives. They've been told this is normal and it's okay, and you should look down on other women who don't meet our standards. So her character isn't anything new. Again, she's an Appalachian Karen, basically. You just want to pitch smack her.
She's 100% a stereotype, and I love that she is. I love that she's a Very standard white, blonde stereotype. I'm happy. Conservative. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. The descriptive word. I mean, Maya said it best. Cunt. Pardon my language, but she is, and she'll be a threat through the entire show, or at least until she's gone somehow. But
what about York, though? Why?
So, I'm gonna let you know right now.
I expected him to be a little more manly. I just want to say right now, I expected him to be a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want him on my team in the zombie apocalypse. You know?
100%. I think that's what makes him such an interesting character for this to me, is that he is the most unlikely person for the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the crazy thing in the comic. He never isn't that character. Like, he never, like, there's a couple times where he steps up just a little bit to help, but 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, let's decrease that percentage.
Yeah, because he's done nothing but kind of aggravate the fuck out of me since the very start.
He will do that till the end of the show. I absolutely promise you that. I don't think he ever wasn't that in the comic. He was always kind of a little whiny, a little of moronic, making decisions that would have to fucking force 355 to bail his ass out. He even made a couple decisions in the comic that characters killed. Again, don't know if they're gonna do that for the show, but for the sake of the comic, like, it's so, you know, you being annoyed by him.
He makes Luke from Star Wars look like Captain America compared to him.
Well, in Luke Skywalker's defense, he was just whiny.
He was so
whiny.
But
he had sack.
Oh, yeah,
for lack of a better term. He had bravery and courage out his ass.
He had some cojones. York has no cojones. No wonder Beth left him. That was just a fun time for her. That was it. And I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to forewarn you that if you're annoyed with him in the first 3 episodes, you're going to be annoyed with him until either the show ends or they cancel it.
Yeah, I get that feeling because he's definitely not, I know what some of the feminists have been spouting and been, conjecturing. He is definitely not, coming in and taking charge and doing the man thing. That is not this character. This is the dude that's still attached to his mommy's apron strings, and you just want to choke him. Yeah, this is not the dude that you're like, I know he's the last guy, but can we talk about those sperm banks again? Because I don't think I want this one passing on his genetics.
That is actually something I want to commend the show on that the comic does not do. And I'd love to hear if Brian K. Vaughan really, really likes that edition. Because they never touch on the sperm banks in the comics at all. And I know sperm banks existed in 2001 or 2002. It's not like it was a newfangled concept like in 2010.
God, no.
But it never really gets talked about in the comic, as far as I remember. So the fact that they're having completely new characters kind of talk about the fucking sperm banks and what they're going to do, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, go into that a little bit. So I'm really happy with that. Which is also an interesting thing because 9 times out of 10, when a comic book or a novel goes to TV, they leave out a bunch of stuff. But this show is putting in a bunch of stuff the comic never touches on. So I'm like, cool, let's do that. That's neat.
Maybe it's just something he didn't think about.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's something every woman would have immediately been like, yeah, sperm banks. How do you think half of us get pregnant to begin with?
Yeah. Because that's the other thing is, like, I'd like to know if sperm are still viable after this. Like if a woman is pregnant with something and then that baby has a Y chromosome, is it just dead? Like, does it?
Yeah, that's what I want to know too, which is why they're looking at the geneticists. I love what 355 had to say about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, well, why don't we go ahead and give any final thoughts and a grade, and then we'll get on out of here. Maya, why don't you go in first on this one? Go ahead and go first. Jesus Christ.
I'm absolutely an A. Really loving it so far. They're not holding back with the viscera. They're not holding back with just the sheer scope of legitimate terror and chaos. It's being presented in a way we've not seen before, and I'm enjoying it. I'm also, personally enjoying the representation side of things and how, you know, chromosomes and your gender, they're not linked.
Right.
It doesn't matter what gender you are. It matters in this world what chromosomes you have.
Yeah.
And, you know, um, and to the point where, post this event, people are going to see a man and assume, okay, well, that's a transgender man. Whereas prior to the event, they would, assume that they were cisgendered automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's going to flip that on its head. I like that. But having read the comic, and it's been 15 years since I've read the comic, I want to reread it. So to be fresh in my mind, because there's a lot of details I've forgotten. I want to compare it, but I'm hoping, that this show gets its full run, that they get to do the full story that the comic told, and in the way that the showrunners have done this. If they do each episode like an issue of the comic, it'll be a 6-season, 60-episode series. I don't think it has to be that drawn out. I'm sure you could do it in probably 4 seasons, maybe 5. But I'm definitely excited. I hope it does well. I've already been telling everybody about it. I forgot that it came out Monday, and then I thought, oh, okay, that comes on Hulu tonight. No, it's streaming on Hulu. I thought it came on FX, on the channel itself, and I got to looking on my Sling account, and I was like, I'm not seeing it. And then I flipped over to Hulu, and it's like, Why the Last Man? There it is, 3 episodes ready to go. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that at all. But yeah, I'm super excited. It's a lot of fun. Horrible, horrible things or just things that you wouldn't think of, a typical person wouldn't think of, are brought to your attention, and it's just, I want more of it, and I want it now. I hate this week to week shit sometimes. What do you think, Betty?
Oh, I loved it. And again, it had me very captured from the start, because you can definitely, in my opinion, tell that there are a lot of women working on this, because they touched on a lot of things that, as a female viewer, I'm going to want to see. And it's really well done. I like the fact that York is not, a man's man. That he's definitely the one who needs taken care of in this.
He's gonna cry more than some of the other characters.
Oh, I absolutely see that coming. He's already
a
cried
lumberjack,
more
and
than
that's
anybody
okay.
else. Yeah, bless his heart.
Yeah.
It's but I think 355 right now is my favorite character. I love her. She's so badass. I want to be her when I grow up.
I can say this right now. The 2 characters that I remember the most out of the comic are 355 and Scientist Man. I don't remember her first name for the life of me, but I remember her character quite extensively.
Yeah.
I want to say Leslie, but I don't think it's Leslie. I think it's Allison.
No, it's Allison. It's Allison Mann. Leslie Mann is Judd Apatow's wife.
Right, right. So yeah, Leslie Mann are the 2. Her and 355, which you haven't met.
No,
Allison
but
yet,
she's been mentioned. She's the geneticist, and again, I'm very curious to see where this goes, and all these factions that, again, we have our own stereotypes about what people with Y chromosomes are like. And it's going to blow away some of the stereotypes, and it's probably going to get ugly, and there's going to be some people who don't like it. But I think it's fascinating. And so far with just these 3 episodes, I definitely give it an A+. I'm excited to see what's coming next. I do not like York, but the women definitely make up for what he's lacking. What about you, Greg?
Mirror what you guys say. Like I got to give it an A and not an A+, because again, I'm not super into all the gossipy stuff. I get why it's there, and it's important because, to get you into a show, to get you to care about characters, you have to care about the characters, and to get you to care about characters, you have to learn about those characters. And unfortunately, that's not something that gets me into a show. So that kind of stuff, I was like very passively watching, because I'm just like I just didn't care. But aside from that, like, there are some moments in the show that I was just like glued, fucking 100% glued, because I was like, what's gonna happen next? And that's something, as a fan of the comic, like, I love that I don't know what's gonna happen next. I love that they're just taking it with a little bit of turning to put a little twist on it. So I'm like, ooh, how is this gonna play out? I'm glad that we got new characters to fucking care about, and new angles to take things in this. Would you call it like a half apocalypse? Like, is it apocalyptic? Can you consider it apocalyptic?
Yes, I would say half, or even a little more than half, of the population dying off
Apocalyptic light
is very apocalyptic, because, again, you're going to have problems, even if it was just men and women together, even if half the population, like, Thanos just came down and said, half of you are gone, we would not be in a good place.
Right.
I know the Marvel universe makes it look like all the nuclear power plants didn't explode, but there would be some bad things that would happen.
Yeah, Marvel definitely takes things a little lighter than this show is even going to remotely touch. Like, that's again why I love when I tell people to read comics, I don't always mean superhero stuff. Like, Why the Last Man, Preacher, fucking The Boys, Sandman, fucking fantastic, very mature themed content that is getting turned into stuff that people don't even realize that they were comics. My buddy the other day, I was telling him about the show, and he was just like, did they just take the idea of Last Man on Earth with Will Forte and turn it into their own thing? And I was like, well, if anything, Last Man on Earth would have ripped off of Why the Last Man, since the comic was written in 2002.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think it's fair to compare
Invincible,
the two, because there's still men alive and there's still women alive. That's the whole basis of Last Man on Earth. He was not the last man on Earth. That's
not
what
even
made
less
that
human.
show.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that show, by the way. I thought that show was hilarious. So,
right. The other fucking mature comic that got turned into a fantastic show, Resident Alien.
a Nosferatu and Sweet Tooth are 2 other ones I can think of.
Oh yes, Sweet Tooth. I forgot about that one. Anyway, point I'm getting at is that comics aren't just superheroes. Comics aren't just for kids.
Yeah, there's so much more. So much more.
Yeah. So, but yeah, A from me, A from Maya, and A+ from Betty. Is that what we got?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, Jesus Christ. So yeah, episode 4 on Monday, and What If on Wednesday. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. It's episode 7 of What If. If we add a movie or a TV show, you can check that out on the social medias that we have linked down below. And you can follow us there and communicate with us and let us know what you thought of the shows as well. If you're looking to buy some merch, since the winter season is coming around the corner, there are some cold themed
skip
gear.
fall.
Did I say winter? I meant fall.
Yeah, you said winter.
I just skipped right past the whole season. My favorite season, to be specific. But yeah, so there's hoodies, I believe. I think we were talking about, like, if I don't know if Teespring has scarves and beanies, but If they do, we'll see what we can do. But yeah, go check out the Teespring store, see if there's something you want to buy, and let us know, because we'll share your picture on our social media if you want to. If you have it on your social media, we'll definitely give you a retweet or we'll link it to ours, essentially, is what I was trying to say, and show it off. Also, go to our YouTube channel. Give this video of the podcast a little like if you listen to a different platform. Helps out the algorithm, helps us. You know the drill. You know how that works out. And subscribe to it. But that's all I have in my notes. Maya, where can folks find you?
They can find me on Facebook under my name. It's a public profile, so if they want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, they can do so. You can also catch me on 3 other podcasts, all 3 on the Realm of Collectors YouTube channel, every Wednesday. Alternating Wednesdays. 1 week it's Figure Banging, the next week it's Shelf Groovy. They've invited me to be a permanent part of that, and that's awesome. And it's where we come and work on creative things like painting or sculpting or building, creating dioramas. It's a lot of fun. We just sit there and BS and give tips on techniques with a live chat. If people ask how to do certain things, it's more of an instructive kind of thing on how to do things, and it's a lot of fun. Figure Banging's a live action figure review show, and Nerd Life Syndicate every Friday. Oh, sorry. Figure Banging is at 9:30 p.m. on every other Wednesday. Shelf Gravy is at 9 p.m. every other Wednesday. And every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, Nerd Life Syndicate, where we talk about a variety of topics in pop culture and entertainment, comics, TV shows, movies, toys, etc., etc. But yeah, that's everywhere you can find me, aside from here, of course. What about you, Benny?
You can find me on Facebook under Betty Badger Ogletree, or you can find me on Twitter at Bright Betty. And that's it. That's all I'm doing. What about you, Greg?
You can find me on all socials under Chub Rock Geek. You can also find me doing stuff with Mission Start on the Mission Start Tubes YouTube channel or the Mission Start podcast with Anthony. I'm hoping to record a review for Psychonauts 2 here soon. I've been kind of slacking on it with everything going on. But hopefully I can get that to him soon and we can have that uploaded. You can also find me on the road driving legally now with my driver's license and all that jazz. So, that's exciting, which I'm not even joking. I have misplaced my temporary license. So I'll have to find that when we're done recording. Don't know where the fuck that went. Is it over here? No, it's not over there.
It's up your ass and to the left.
I genuinely don't see it. Anyway, yeah, like I said, next week, What If episode 7, Why Last Man episode 4. We're all excited about both. The 3 of us are excited about those 2 shows. Again, if we add a movie or something extra to the list, we will let you know on social medias as quickly as we can. I meant to do that this week and I completely spaced, but knowing what's been going on, it makes sense. But yeah, guys, I think that's going to do it for us. Again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace, love, and Polly Pops.
Take care, everybody.